Hi there, I am Samantha Gartland, and I am the Certified Orientation and Mobility Specialist at the Northeastern Association of the Blind at Albany. I'm here today to talk to you about fall risks and fall prevention as it relates to vision loss. A little bit about orientation and mobility. It's the study of how people with vision loss travel. The orientation piece being, where are you going, and how are you going to get there? So the tools that you may use to do that task. And the mobility part is the movement and how we move and what tools or adaptive devices are we using to do that movement. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about trip hazards inside and outside and how we can lessen the frequency of that happening. Some indoor trip hazards and safety tips and how to fix them. One thing would be cords. Electrical cords in your home can pose a tripping hazard. Sometimes people are running electrical cords across a room, and even though they may be flush to the ground, they can still be a tripping hazard for those who have low vision and do not see them that well. Another thing that is a trip hazard often in homes that I'm going to are rugs. Throw rugs, area rugs, runners down hallways, all of these things can sometimes be an issue. The problem is that the rugs over time end up curling up on their ends if they have no rubber slip backing to them, which adhere them to the floor. And those only really adhere them to a surface that they can adhere to. So like another wood floor or a tile floor. So having runners or throw rugs on top of carpet is especially not helpful because they absolutely curl up and become a trip hazard. So getting rid of unnecessary rugs, especially rugs on top of carpet, but please keep rugs in areas that are dangerous and can be a trip or slip hazard. One would be your bathroom. So having a little rug next to your tub or shower from when you're stepping in and out and you are wet and it could be slippery on top of your tile, that is a safe place to have a rug. Another thing to consider is footwear. A lot of times I'm going into homes and I'm meeting people who have what we would call like a house shoe or like a slipper. It's a slip-on type of shoe. It has no backing on the heel, and this tends to be a problem because as we're walking, our heel can slip right out of the back of it and then we lose our shoe, causing ourselves to trip. This especially happens on stairs. As we're moving and pulling our foot upstairs, our foot can slip out. I would recommend wearing footwear inside your home that has a great tread on the bottom. So on the bottom, it's not very slippery, it's very grippy. And I would also say that you should wear something with a heel, the backing of a heel. So something like a tennis shoe, if you want that feeling of having a comfortable type of slip-on shoe, maybe something like a moccasin that has a heel and a backing to it, but it can still be fuzzy and comfortable inside. Not everything has to tie, like this tennis shoe that I'm holding up here. It could be Velcro, but as long as it's not so loose on your shoe. A lot of times I'm in people's homes and those house slippers are pretty worn out, and so they're not even that tight to anyone's foot anymore. So something to consider in terms of footwear and how that can likely lessen the frequency of any accidents is very good. Another thing to consider is clutter. I know it's really hard to sometimes let things go, or it's hard to keep up on the chores and the tasks of a home, but if we have clutter like boxes or stacks of paper in the way, sometimes these things are piled up on the floor next to a chair, or sometimes they're piled up on the stairs so that, eventually when we go upstairs, we're gonna grab this and bring it up, and then sometimes we don't, right? So keeping any of that kind of stuff around, if you don't need it, if you haven't used it in a year, try to get rid of it, try to lessen your clutter or keep your clutter in an area in which somebody who with low vision is not going to be traveling, because it can be a trip hazard. Another thing that can be a trip hazard is excessive furniture, or furniture that just doesn't fit in the area that it's in. So for instance, a larger coffee table than is necessary for the space provided. It makes it hard to ambulate around it. It might leave such a thin pathway between maybe a couch, sofa, and the coffee table that someone can ambulate through, and that's not helpful. It could be trip hazard. Something like rocking chairs or chairs that are at an angle and their legs are sticking out the back or the front. Those things can also be a trip hazard for somebody in that area ambulating through that narrow space. Another thing to consider, and this is not always something that happens for everybody, but child toys and children and the things that they leave about, because one, they're children, and two, they don't understand vision loss as much. So keeping those toys to one specific room that the person with low vision doesn't really travel in, so maybe a playroom, or having it cleaned up when kids are done using it, or just having them not play in pathways in which people are ambulating in. It's a little bit of a harder one to control, but it's something to be mindful of, because stepping on a Lego hurts and causes a tripping accident, or tripping over a larger toy like a playhouse or a fire truck or something. Those can be issues. Another thing that's kind of hard to control and is in the same realm as children and their toys would be animals. A lot of times cats just like to sprawl out in the middle of your living room, and they can absolutely be a trip hazard when you don't know that they're there. A thing to consider is having a bell on your animal that helps you locate where they are, even if they're maybe laying on the floor and not moving as much. At some point they're moving, and maybe you'll be able to locate them better in your home and know where they are. And also, along with the animals, is if we're using some kind of mobility device in our home to clear the pathway in front of us, like a support cane or a long white cane, these can be helpful too. Another thing to consider is the safety in your home of moving up and down your stairs. Please have railings. Railings are very effective in their assistance in giving you extra guidance and support down the stairs, and is something that you should consider installing in your home if they are not there. Let's talk about lighting and contrast and how those things can sometimes affect tripping hazards and how we ambulate indoors and outdoors. So if we have low vision, sometimes it's very hard to perceive the depth of something, especially when the color can be an issue. For instance, gray on gray, the gray sidewalk of the curb, and you're stepping down into the gray street, and that's really hard for people to perceive. That's why a lot of times you'll see that things are highlighted in yellow on the edge. You can do these things yourself in your home if you're interested in marking anything that you deem can be a contrast tripping hazard for you. So in people's homes, I'm sometimes putting on black stairs and putting white tape on it. This is 3M reflective tape. This is the type of tape that comes on the long white cane as it is. But you can get rolls of it, and you can put it on support canes. I put it on walkers, rollators, and I do use it on people's stairs and their thresholds, or whatever they're deeming a trip hazard for them and they want some more contrast for. So white on top of black would be really good. Or let's say that you have something that is white already, so white would not be good. So red. So this comes in lots of different colors. It also comes in like a hazard caution striped color as well. So a yellow and black stripe, or a black and white stripe, whatever you feel like could be helpful for you. Another thing with lighting and how it can cause problems, or sometimes that we need it, right? So if we're traveling maybe down the stairs of our front porch and the porch light doesn't work anymore, we've never really had a sconce outside, that's something that we might want to install to provide the light in the dim twilight evening time hours. The reverse side of that, when there's too much light coming into your home, or even if you're outside, we might want to consider sunwear. I'm holding up sunwear that is pretty dark for most people and would be deemed an outdoor sunwear. But there are lighter shades of sunwear, and you could wear them indoors to prevent glare that's coming in from your window or sunlight during different times of the day that may affect how you're moving inside your home. Another thing to consider now is mobility equipment. So one of these pieces of equipment is just your regular old support cane, like a candy cane grip hook at the end, and one prong at the bottom. And this is very important because there are freestanding support canes, right, that have 4 prongs on them. So one, another one, and then 2 across. So it makes like a square, 4 of them. And this is a problem because now it's 4 points of interest that somebody with a visual impairment has to be aware of, and it makes it more difficult to find the terrain changes and the drop-offs, okay? Because 2 of these prongs could be up on a curb, and 2 of them could be going over the curb. And if they're going over the curb and these 2 are up, then we're gonna fall over because that's not providing even balance. So that's why we should just stick with 1. Another mobility device that we commonly use is the long white cane, and that is out in front of us in a handshake grip position, and would be really helpful to perceive anything coming up in your area, like terrain changes, drop-offs. You can detect cracks. You can detect the difference in surfaces like concrete, tile. You can feel the grass. So this is a really helpful tool as well, especially for outdoor travel. Some other equipment that you may find yourself using that we as orientational mobility specialists don't give out would be maybe a walker or a rollator, which brings me to my next point about talking about fall risks and fall prevention, which would be consulting other professionals, paraprofessionals. So for something about your mobility issues as it relates to your musculoskeletal system, you should seek the advice of a physical therapist. You could absolutely call your primary care physician and ask for this recommendation to be seen by a physical therapist for an assessment. The physical therapist will assess your skills as it relates to how you ambulate with your body movement. That's not necessarily affected by your vision. So sometimes this is balance issues, strength, weakness, fatigue, created by anything in your muscular or skeletal system, which will be maybe a knee is bothering you, a hip, back, any of those things. Somebody else that you could also be speaking with in the paraprofessional world is an ear, nose, and throat doctor, an otolaryngologist, and that person may help you with some imbalance issues as it relates to your inner ear. That is where some of your balance is honed, and when people speak of vertigo and things like that is sometimes in relation to your inner ear. And another person that you could also speak with would be an occupational therapist, and an occupational therapist helps you with all of your activities of daily living as it relates to possibly no vision loss, because we have vision rehab professionals that help you with those skills with low vision. And so an occupational therapist would help somebody with the tripping and slipping hazards as it relates to showering, because that's an activity of daily living. So having grab bars put into your shower, or a shower chair, or a transitioning chair into your shower, in and out of your shower, or a different seat for your toilet to help you not have to sit as low or balance. These are all things that you would possibly be speaking to an occupational therapist about. So this is a little bit about how we can work on fall prevention and how we can create an interdisciplinary team to help us figure out what our problems are, assess what needs to be done, and recommend the tools and training and skills that we need to acquire to help make ourselves safe in whatever our travel needs will be. I hope you all have a good day, and if you would like to reach out to me about anything that it relates to traveling with vision loss, please don't hesitate to reach me. Again, my name is Samantha Gartland. I am the Certified Orientation Mobility Specialist at NABA. Take care.